Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am here today with Laura Hearn. Laura Hearn is a business coach for women and military spouses. She has worked in the financial services industry for nearly a decade and has dedicated herself to helping women and military families bridge the financial confidence gap. Laura is certified in business and entrepreneurship coaching, and she helps women entrepreneurs build and scale their heart-centered businesses with confidence. Today, we talked about money mindset, overcoming limited beliefs, and overcoming money blocks surrounding money, how we can work through so much of the things that were role modeled to us as we were growing up and kind of flip our mindset switch. So much about having conversations today surrounding money and empowering yourself as a woman to be a part of the money conversations and to be empowered and know what's going on with your money. And it was just so good because I know I grew up in a household where we didn't talk about money, or it was hush hush between the guys when they were talking about the stock market. And I think in today's society, women need to be more empowered surrounding their money. So this was so good. And also a whole conversation about putting your own oxygen mask on first, not feeling guilty about where guilt might stem from when you're doing something like having a massage or getting the hat you want, or where you may have some idea in your mind that getting those things is selfish, and how to flip the whole thinking around that and where it came from to begin with. There were so many good conversations. I hope you guys really enjoy this episode and let us know what you think. Without further ado, we're going to dive into this episode with Laura Hearn. Hi, everybody. I am so excited to welcome Laura Hearn to the Sisterhood today. Welcome.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here, Linda. Thank you for having me.
Wow, I think you look so official. Your office looks like you would be the person to talk to me financially. I mean, you should look like the person and show up
One would
as the
hope.
person.
One would hope. If I've been doing
Right?
this for a decade, that I look the part, or at least have the decorations for the part, right?
Because if you showed up all sloppy, I would not want to trust you with my financial advice.
That
It's
makes me feel
true.
good. I just got off of a client meeting before this, so I am glad that I'm looking at least half decent today.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm having fun with you today and the listeners. But isn't that true that you got to show up as the person you want to be before you become it, before you can step into goals and dreams? You have to start stepping into them, right? You have to show up. Like I as a fitness person cannot show up and just lay down on the floor and say, hey guys, I'm just really tired today. Do whatever you want to do while I eat this cupcake.
Yeah, you have to show up. And sometimes that pressure can feel a lot, but even if you're not feeling it, I'm a firm believer in borrowing beliefs. So if you're on that goal journey and you're not 100% in it, right? You're not 100% believing you're capable of it, but you know it's something important to you. Believe someone else's beliefs of you're going to get there. It takes time. I believe in you. Because by adopting those beliefs, I don't like saying stealing it or faking it till you make it. It's just borrowing it until you can start seeing the results and the track record. And sometimes just showing up, right? Wearing the uniform of the person or the thing you want to be helps you jumpstart it, right? If you're going to the gym, put the workout clothes on, at least So then you can be like, why am I wearing this workout clothes? Why haven't I worked out yet? Let's go work out.
It really is crazy how just jumping into the persona of what you want. I mean, I wish I had my hat right here right now, but the hat I bought, just um showing up as that person and jumping into that persona of what you want, it almost automatically changes the way you feel. And sometimes I'll dress in the opposite way of how I feel to brighten up my day.
Yeah.
And it really does, I think, change things. And I know you're all about overcoming limited beliefs. So this is kind of where I'm heading with this is sometimes we may not believe we have what it takes to be who we want to be.
Yep.
We may have all these stories in our head. I know I did, and I didn't even realize it because I'm a pretty positive person. But when I went to Isaiah Hankel's mastermind in New York City, and we sat there and we went around the room saying our limited beliefs, I started realizing how many I had, number one, and how many people had the same one.
Yep.
The
You're not
same
alone.
thoughts, and they were together people. So then I realized I wasn't alone, that we all have these thoughts that roll through our mind. So how can we overcome these? Because they do hold you back.
Yeah.
What you think is really important. So how can we overcome limiting beliefs, and where do they come from?
So it's twofold, because a lot of times, like you said, you weren't aware of your limiting beliefs, right? And that's because they like to reside in our subconscious. Because sometimes we know these things are silly, doesn't make sense, that you want to achieve these goals and you're determined to do that, but there's something holding you back from doing that, even though you're working so hard. Like, what is it that's keeping you, from just making the right choices in your food, or making the right choices with your finances, or making the right choices in your personal life? Even though you're so determined and you're doing all these other trainings and taking all these other actions, there's still some things that are preventing you from going full bore. And the first thing that I, say is that you need to get honest with yourself and really understanding what it takes fully to commit yourself to whatever goal, change, improvement you want to make in your life. And then really take the time to understand, what are you afraid of? Because for the most time, people like to say, oh, they're afraid of success, they're fear of success. And I don't subscribe to that. I think it's more of a fear of what you're going to lose by committing to change, right? You're going to lose, maybe in the fitness realm, food as a comfort, food as a distressor, and that scares you. If you become wildly financially business successful, you might lose friends, you might lose family members, because they don't understand the goals or the drive that you have. You might lose relationships, and that can be really scary. But you have to understand what's holding you back. What are those little threads that you're still clinging to? And you have to be honest with yourself through that process, or you'll never be able to truly uncover those limiting beliefs or how to actually overcome them. And it's also good to work with someone who can help navigate that.
I had some of those limiting beliefs, so such kind of where you think being a powerful woman, it would be harder to hang on to your husband or make him happy because you're in your masculine. I think,
Yeah.
the way that I was raised kind of by my mom, she was more like the stay-at-home mom. We had these roles. Dad's a breadwinner.
Yeah.
She didn't make waves. She pretty much did whatever he pretty much wanted. And so I had a lot to overcome in the realm of being very ambitious, being successful. And then what does it mean if I'm very successful? What does that mean? Am I going to lose certain things that I want if I chase after my dreams and my goals and my ambitions? And I think like you could think, and I will say every time you up level, you do lose people.
Yes.
You do lose people. And I think my take, and I'm going to see what yours is a lot of times it's because they're not dreaming and maybe they're not really going after anything. So you're really making them uncomfortable. And then there's this divide.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Now, coming from a space where I am married and I have kids, and I have taken an ambitious route myself and have gone into, male prevalent, I don't like saying male dominated, but male prevalent industries and shaking it up a little bit. And then also having the internal identity crisis of, but wait, to be a good mom, I need to do all of these things. And then to be a good wife, I need to do these because, I grew up in a more, similar to you with a stay-at-home mom, and my dad was the breadwinner and all of that. It caused this clash of values. At least that's what I thought was a clash of values. But then I realized I don't have to do all of it all by myself. And that was a key thing with understanding I can be ambitious and wildly successful. And my husband is wildly successful on his own accord, and he loves that I'm ambitious and I have dreams and I have goals. That's not just about me, but about us as a family and us together conquering stuff and doing good for others. It's about broadening the view from just, I want to achieve this, 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 and this, but I can achieve all of this by working as a team with my spouse, even though we have different goals, different careers. Now, when you back that up to what you were talking about, friendships and family relations, it's 100% true. There are people I do not personally discuss my business dreams and goals or just my life goals and dreams because they don't have that ambition, or they've given up and they're jealous and it makes them awkward. And I've lost friendships as well, just because there was like, what am I going to talk to you about? My entire life is all of these things, and you keep dragging me down. Now, some of these people, they come from a place of care, like they actually, like family members that are like trying to look out for you. But I stopped talking about it. I still love them. I still go to family functions. I just don't talk shop and just focus it on other conversations that we can relate on. But socially, yeah, I've lost friends. I've lost many of friends due to ambitions, especially being in the military community. My husband's active duty. There's a lot of military spouses that give up on their careers, that sacrifice a lot of themselves for their significant other and for their significant other's service, which is totally commendable. And I've had to go through those challenges of being ambitious, of wanting a career, wanting a family, and not giving up on myself and my career while having to move every so many years and reinvent the wheel, if you will. And that causes a schism in my personal, like, social community. So I implore people to find your own community. And that's the beauty of the pandemic and the digital world that it created, is that we're able to find masterminds and go to masterminds and go and meet people that are at your level and above, key point above where you want to go, to keep you motivated and keep you pushing forward.
What are some of the myths that you think that we, why do women eat the burnt toast while they give everybody the better bread? Like, why do we feel that we are the ones that have to sacrifice everything? I won't say never, but rarely do you hear that the man sacrificed all of his dreams.
Yeah.
And why is it that women feel that they have to be, I mean, I hate to say like a sacrificial lamb, but like, like
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're
sacrificing
saying. And
themselves completely
yeah,
without
I mean,
reward.
part of it is just, I hate to say it like this, but it's like genetic coding. We are inherently more likely to be caregivers. We are emotional beings, right? If you compare women to men, male to female, the way that our brains are wired, or it's different. It's completely different. And when you look at just the dawn of humanity and how we were supposed to function in community with others, leaning on each other as women, right? The men go hunting, gathering, and go out, while the women stayed back and kept the community and the village running. The difference, if you fast forward now a few millennia forward, is that we don't have that community, but we still have that ingrained responsibility to take care of our family, to take care of everything, while the men go out and bring back the bacon.
We're the
if you will.
we're the nurturers, the caretakers. I think like you would do, I would, do anything for my children, basically.
Yeah.
And so I think though that many times women feel guilty for having their own wants, needs, and desires.
Yes.
And I think that's where it's gone too far one way. And we need to
Yeah.
swing the
It's
pendulum back to the
always,
center.
there's so much of a vacuum space where we think that you can either be career ambitious and be this total, badass woman that has all these career dreams and goals checked off, or you can be a mother, caretaker, nurturing homemaker. Like it's one or the other, is like the light, the story that likes to be told. But if we go back and you find your community, you find those you can lean on and people that you can ask for help, right? We've gone into this place where we can't ask for help. In the dawn of, women's suffrage and us women going to the workplace, it started out very cutthroat because the workplace was designed for men. It inherently was. And women became, a check in the box, right? Oh, we hired a woman. So we were so cutthroat against each other to get that one spot. But we
Oh,
have
right.
grown
Totally.
so
100%.
competitive with each other that we don't see each other as comrades, as people that can actually together make a difference. I mean, it's lately in the last like 3 years, that's massively changed. A huge wave of sense of community has come back. But that's been a huge force of this like divisive, you can either have one or the other. And I challenge all of that back to that sense of community, and also that guilt factor. It's important to understand where it comes from. And a lot of times it's attached to things from our childhood. It's attached to things like money, actually. It's not just, well, I think a good mom is this, this, and this. But when you think about financial success, when you think about money, when you think about going after your goals, how does that make you feel? If being ambitious also makes you feel guilty, you need to ask yourself why. And a lot of times, this guilt around money, this guilt about success, comes from this sense of competition that I mentioned, and from our childhood, this sense of lack, right? That if you were told, we've all heard these sayings, and I always giggle, like, you better finish your meal because there's starving kids in the world, right? What does that make
Ding,
you
ding,
feel?
ding.
That makes you feel bad for having things. And if you get told that over and over and over again, you're going to feel bad, like, oh, I don't need that because, there's people that have less than me. I should be grateful just for this, which I'm not saying don't be grateful for the things you have, but there's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
wanting more.
right.
Right. And then there's this idea of this, there's guilt about it. There's fear because of what you could lose, right? Friendships, relationships, which we already talked about. And then there's also this saying of, money changes you. Money's the root of all evil. And I challenge that with, if I gave you $1 million, what would you do with it?
What would
Now,
I do?
yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'd have some fun, Linda. I'm sure you'd have some fun. But after you had some fun, maybe bought some new clothes, bought a new car, whatever fun you had, I'm sure you would do some good with it, whether it's reinvesting into your businesses, your podcasts, whether it's giving to some charities or communities that you care about. You would inherently do some good that would provide for others at some level. So again, tell me how money doesn't change you. Money isn't the root of evil. It magnifies who you are. Now, if you're already a crappy person,
it's going to magnify that.
It's going to magnify the crappiness. And that's what the news and, the TV and all the reality shows, like the shows, all these crazy rich people doing stupid things, wasting their money.
Stepping back just a little, but what you said about the starving children in another country and you feeling like you don't deserve anything good.
Yeah.
I see that where when people have money, if they were to spend it upon themselves and have nice things, they're afraid to let that go too far because they just feel very selfish or very guilty, like they're not worthy of having all of that, or that it's selfish for them to, I don't know, get a massage or get their nails done. If it was something like that, they feel like that's frivolous, or get a new pair, a new Louis Vuitton, or like something expensive that they wanted. They feel guilty, really guilty about it.
Yeah. I mean, there's an old saying as well, that's kind of resurfaced with all of this kind of self-care talk about, but you cannot help others before you can without taking care of yourself. It's like when you go on an airplane, what do they tell you when the oxygen masks fall down? To put it on yourself before you help your children or your husband or anyone else around you. You have to take care of yourself. If you are miserable and you are putting all of your energy into everyone else and you're being drained, you're not going to be able to show up. You're not going to be able to lead by example. You're not going to be a good person, as in like you're not going to be a good mother, a good wife, good anything, because you're running on negative energy stores. So you have to take care of yourself. And if you have the means to get yourself a massage, and that's going to help relax and get the aches and the pains out so that then you can do more for others, then why not give yourself the ability to do more by taking care of yourself?
But why do we feel so guilty when we do something for ourselves? And sometimes it's put upon us by like another person. Maybe the spouse is like, you shouldn't be spending that money on that hat or that massage, or wow, but like I really stuck to the hat. It's in an episode. And he thought it was too expensive, and I just really wanted it. And he sends me this Amazon like hat. Look, this hat's good. And it was like, I don't know, $25 or $35 or something. And I'm looking at the hat. I'm like, you wear that hat. But I got the hat, let me just say. And then he sees it and he's like, your hat's cute. And for me, it was more of money is an energy. And like, I know I'm worthy and deserving of having the hat I want. Yeah. And it was like a statement in a way, a value statement.
You just said it.
Yeah.
worth, self-worth.
Yeah.
And that, unfortunately, sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of times comes from initially how other people talk about you. And that feeds your voice in your head. And especially if it comes from childhood, right? How did your parents or your mom talk about spending money?
Money
Or
doesn't
not at
grow
all?
on trees. Money does not grow on trees.
Yep.
If I had 2 pair of jeans in the closet, that was enough.
Yeah. And that's a sense of lack. That's poverty
Yes,
consciousness, that there's not enough in the world to go around.
scrape the last. I mean, you cannot open a new bag of anything unless you have finished the crumbs,
Yep.
scraped out the last amount of whatever. Like, it's because they grew up in the Depression, and so
Yeah.
they have that more of that the lack mentality.
I'll joke for a second. So my family is a family of immigrants, right? My mom's from Central America. My dad's grandparents came from the Ukraine and from Hungary, and they lived in like the slums of Pittsburgh, like literally called the Bottoms and McKees Rocks. Like, who wants to live somewhere called the Bottoms? And I grew up, eating Hispanic food and Eastern European food. I'm a very weird nut. And we had to clean our plates. I grew up cleaning our plates, even though, my dad did really well for himself, military, government employee. We were middle America, but we cleaned our plates. My husband, on the other hand, is from, Orange County, California, this, that, the other. I always laugh with just the way we eat chicken wings. Okay. I clean the bone. Okay. I clean the bone. And my husband doesn't. He's like, oh no, I just eat the meaty part, and he leaves everything else on it. And I'm like, you're not going to finish eating? How are you going to get more wings when you still have stuff left on those wings? And that comes from how I was raised with, this is the food we have. You eat the food. You're not getting seconds. You're not getting more food later until you clean your plate.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
they're
We
starving
had to
kids.
clean our plate. They're starving kids in another country.
Yep. And I totally understand that. And it took me, my parents didn't talk openly about money growing up. And that was the
Oh,
other
that
thing.
too. That too.
And that really makes you lean into that, like holding on to every penny, like you're like Gollum, like my precious, my precious. And although that can make your savings account look really great, but what is that doing for you, right? You have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your mental health. You have to take care of your physical health. You need to feel good at some level, right? You shouldn't be living in misery, which is kind of what, the boomers were raised by parents who were raised in the Great Depression. So it was just about scraping by, but we're not in that generation anymore. We're not in that. I mean, you can debate that about the economy later somewhere else on a different podcast, but
I mean, I get it, because it's almost like a trauma of sorts.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's our job to kind of like heal that generational trauma,
Yeah.
especially if you didn't come from like the Rockefeller family or something like that during those times.
Waste not, what not.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones they said a lot.
Yeah. So many. But what that mindset does, of this sense of lack that you have to cling to everything, is that it makes you think that there's not enough money, there's not enough resources to go around. And it makes you feel like you're competing, like you have to fight for your crumb of that piece of bread, money, penny, whatever. Like, you have to fight for it. And then that can lead to feeling guilty about competing because there's other people that don't have. And if you're competing for these supposed finite resources, and then you're worrying about the starving kids wherever they are, then you feel guilty about it. But what if, everyone, what if
there was enough to go around?
There was enough to go around. And if you competed and you showed up and you took care of yourself and you were successful and you were financially abundant, what if you can make a difference and personally give to the starving kids wherever they are?
That's a
Because
bet.
you
I
stepped
like
into
that.
it.
I like that mind shift and that mindset flip, and you flip the switch. And I think you also flip the switch when it comes to the idea that there's lack of resources or lack of money, or like, you think about it, money is an energy of abundance. It can be abundant. And so, like, when it was time, I had some dreams, and when it was time to go for these dreams, they weren't cheap dreams.
They
And
never are. They never are.
let me just say, it showed up when I made the decision. When I asked God, I asked, you know, asking you'll receive. And then I went for it, made the decision, the money showed up. Like magically, it appeared.
It's amazing. It's amazing when you make that shift to understanding what you are actually capable of, what your, if you believe in God, what your God-given gifts are, and how you're able to use those gifts to be able to give back so much more, right? I hear it a lot. I believe in God. I'm a Christian. I'm a Catholic. But in these communities of Christianity, and even in other, religious communities, there's this sense that, like, it's bad, you're greedy, which is sinful. You are self-absorbed, you're all of these things, you're selfish. And it's like, no, 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 no. How can I give back more? How can I give more to the church? How can I make a bigger impact in these places or people that are, at a disadvantage? How can I make a bigger impact? Well, if I'm financially successful, if I reach my dreams and goals, if I take that risk, if I step off this ledge and go into this and do what I really am passionate about and reap the benefits of them, sow that seed, then I can give more. I can do more. If my business thrives and I can hire people, I can provide an income for them. I can go back and donate or volunteer and do more, create a nonprofit specifically for these different causes and people that I care about. But I cannot make a massive good impact in this world without first taking care of myself and understanding that my dreams, my goals are not selfish, but are a pathway to being selfless.
Ooh, yeah, that's good. I like that. That was very, very good.
I hear it all the time.
Definitely going to remember that. And like what you're saying about those things is the other thing is, we get caught up sometimes stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. Like,
Yeah.
we could be, I'm just as guilty, where you're thinking about something and it seems like so much, and so much money, and maybe it's only, I don't know, $500 more, right? Or it's $1,000 more. The thing is, it's about the dream. It's about the goal and the heartfelt purpose when you're thinking about these big dreams. And if you just spent that 500 or that 1,000, you're never going to think about it again once you do it.
Nope.
And it always works out, like the decision.
Oh yeah.
It works out. I'm
It
not
always
saying go
does.
hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s into debt, but I'm just saying, like, it works out when you make the decision to go for it. And then you realize you were thinking too small.
Yep. Like 100% knows on it. And again, if we trace this back to what we were talking about, like women and feeling guilty and not going after it and, sacrificing and all that stuff, is realizing this whole arc, right? Realizing the poverty conscious, that sense of lack, and where that really comes from. And why that doesn't even make sense, because look at how many millionaires and billionaires and whatever are popping up left and right. And you can actually, look it up online for just your area. I mean, if Gen Z can do it on TikTok, then you can actually do it with your real dreams in life. And you can, you look at that, then you look at, why do you feel guilty about it? Where does that really come from? Who told you that? And are they a reliable source? And who told you that money is bad and evil? And is that reliable?
Or
What
that,
access does
or
it
that
give
getting
you?
a massage, you should feel guilty for spending money on yourself.
And that sometimes comes from just like poor communication. I find that, like, when there's like that argument between spouses, because trust me, I'm married, and sometimes there's a miscomm in values, and when someone's stepping into themselves before the other one has had the aha moment themselves, there can be this like misalignment. And trust me, in the beginning of my husband and I's journey, we were not on the same page. I was stepping into it before he was, and he was like, "Oh my God, how much did you just spend?" And I'm like, "Honey, we're good. Trust me." And then, he finally, like a couple months later, like not too long, thank God, not too long later, he had his aha moment, and we've been able to step into it now. Like, it was like, "Hey, welcome to the club." And that's where communication skills and really sitting down and talking about your vision with your life partner. Because so many people don't have that discussion about their true vision for not just themselves, for their family. And then the other person, it's really hard for them to get on board because they feel like you're just off in this other planet. But if you truly are committed to that relationship, it's just about having that conversation. And sometimes you might need someone else, a mediator. You might need some sort of couples therapy, which I don't think couples therapy should be because you're getting divorced. It should be because you just want to improve your relationship, or a relationship coach or something, to be able to help guide better communication skills between yourself
It's
and your
always
significant
based
other.
on communication. I
Yes.
mean, that's like the thing. The
Yep.
communicate what someone's saying may not be what you're hearing, and what you're saying may not be what they're hearing, and you have to figure that whole dynamic out. So I love that you said, work on it. It doesn't need to be because because you're having trouble. It should be like early on in the relationship.
It's
But
all about
back
improving.
back to talking about money again.
Yes.
How do we overcome money blocks? Because I think the way you think about money is pretty important, and
Yes.
it really translates into how much of it you have.
Yeah, I mean, it translates in so many ways. Like, how do you show up to the negotiation table, right? Even if you're not an entrepreneur, if you're at your job or going for a new job, so many women don't negotiate, right? So many women, when they're up for a raise, they just settle for whatever. They don't negotiate for more. They don't push it to see what else they can actually get that is available to them. Because if you don't ask, you won't get it. Ask and you shall receive, or at least figure out what you can receive. And to overcome these types of blocks, which I've have had a lot of discussions with a lot of different women, because it's so important to me, and I saw it so much in my financial practice, is that really comes down to writing it all out. Like, for me and for a lot of other women, we're emotionally driven just because we're women, but writing it down, like, why, like, what your goals are. Like, write down whatever vision or goals you have or things you want to do. Like, you want to be able to do massages and do this and do that, or have this amazing business and hit these income goals, whatever it is. Like, write down that goal. And then you have to write down your true, honest feelings about it. Like, do you think that's silly? Do you think you're silly for wanting that? Which I've heard so many, I'm like, "Oh, that's silly. Why am I saying that? That's not a real goal." Like, they'll say their goal, then they immediately backtrack it. I'm like, but that's silly. That's a silly goal. Um, but why do you think that? Write down, like, immediately when you think of your goal, like right now, if you're thinking of your big goal right now, what's the first thought that comes into mind after you say it about it? And if it's silly, stupid, but I'll never do that. I'll never be able to explore
It's
that.
not that you think that it's silly or stupid. I think you're scared,
Yeah, it's
and
this
like you're like
thread. You have to
you put that
unthread the
big dream
knot.
out there. You're afraid of who will say who are you to do that. You're afraid of the reality of this is the truth. This is what you really want.
Yeah.
So many things.
There's so many things that are tied to that first negative thought that it's like having that like ball of yarn that's all came undone, got all knotted up. Like you have to like thread by thread pull on it till you see, oh, I can do this. And there's a series of questions that you can go through, and different types of lessons of kind of undoing, right? It's a massive undoing of this brain wiring around your goals and your dreams that will make you realize it's a lot simpler than you ever thought it was. And those blocks will start disappearing, and you'll realize how worthy you are of your dreams and goals. Because the biggest question I always ask people, and I want to make sure I say it here, is what will happen? What is the effect of you not showing up 100%? If you are never able to show up 100%, whether that's in your job, in your business, in your family, or whatever, how will that affect others? If you can't show up, if you can't give your all to the things that you love and are passionate about, what will happen? Now, financially, that might mean you can't pay your bills. That might mean you are now struggling to make ends meet. And if you can't make ends meet, how can you show up for your clients? How can you show up for your family? How can you do that? You're going to be so thin. But if you have showed up from the beginning and doing the work that you need to do on yourself and in your business or in whatever, then you're going to start reaping those benefits. You might have to spend some money to take care of yourself and take care of your business and et cetera, to how you mentioned at the very beginning, showing up, right? Dressing the part, right? Spending a little extra on a hat. It's about all of those things, because if you show up and you are authentic and you look and sound the part and you mean it, the money and everything else comes with it. And then the negative things don't happen, or they don't happen at such a large scale impact in your life.
Well,
So it's just a series of understanding that risk, reward, what if you don't ever do it?
exactly. And I think your knees knocking is a big part of a realization. Like anytime you're going to do something that takes you out of your comfort zone, your knees will be knocking. It's normal to feel the fear. But then that's when you need to push through and get, so that if you want to get to the other side, you have to go with your knees knocking. And there's no other path. Like if it's a big dream,
You should be scared.
you are gonna have to jump and take a leap, as Steve Harvey says. He has a book called Jump. But and also just recognizing that it's the big dreams where you really have to take a leap and a jump. You're not quite there yet, and it's almost the only way to do it is just to jump in.
Yep.
And it is scary.
Oh, it's petrifying. It's absolutely petrifying. And that's typically when you're about to do the next, as Anna and Elsa, Frozen, the next right thing is, if you're not scared a little, like you should be scared a little to go after your big goals and your big dreams. They should be intimidating. But that doesn't mean you don't do it. That doesn't mean you quit. That doesn't mean you don't follow through. You still show up. Even if you're like, oh my God, this is so much bigger than myself. That is when you know you're going to make a massive impact, because it is bigger than you.
And circling back to what we were talking about with money and just money conversations. In my childhood, it was hush hush about money. We do not talk about our money with others. And the ladies, the women, like when it was stock market talk, it was, between my brother and my dad. Now I would almost love if my dad was here so I could show him my stock market portfolio, like show him all of my, and say, it'd probably be even better, Dad, if you'd have just let me in the loop. But, I'm just saying these are conversations that women should be at the table for.
Yes.
And so many women don't deal with their finances, and they're in relationships where they don't have a handle on it. And when something goes awry, it's a mess,
I see it all the time. And it aggravates me. It is it's the bane of my existence when women, the wife goes, I'm not going to go. It's nothing to do with me. He does all the money stuff. I'm like, okay. Did you realize that women actually manage the majority of the wealth in America? Like, we actually do all of the day-to-day budgets. Like, you're typically husbands, I'm just going to use traditional. Your husband doesn't do the back to school shopping. Your husband doesn't do the grocery bill and list and all of that stuff. The wife does. You handle the day-to-day everything. And if you only let your husband go to the financial person's office and worry about retirement, you are forgetting about the next 20, 30, 40 years, depending on how old you are. And what if something goes wrong then? And you didn't prepare for it. Women typically manage the majority of all of the money in America. You hold a lot of power.
And
you are your household
utilize that power. You should utilize it and not keep your head in the sand. Knowledge is power, and you could help not only yourself, but so many other people if you have a handle on your money and your finances.
Yes, and prepare for whatever may happen. Like, that's the biggest thing. It's about, like, for me, confidence for a woman should not just be about your physical looks and appearance.
Right.
It should be
about so much more than that.
So much more than that. It's education, it's empowerment, and it's all around mental health, physical health, financial health. It's all of the health, all of the well-beings that you need to be able to live confidently, to show up confidently in your life because you got it together. Having it all together doesn't mean you have this perfect Instagram life. It means you know that your family's taken care of if anything were to happen. Financially devastating, like, you always see the GoFundMe stuff online. You don't want to be that. You don't want to have to put the GoFundMe on there. So show up to the meetings, learn about what's going on in your personal finances, learn what changes you can make. Go to, if you're employed, if you have a job, go to the seminars and go to the meetings and understand what's available at work and the benefits. Go find a financial person to talk to learn about it. And then take that empowerment and education and roll with it into your physical health and roll into it with your mental health and into everything that you do. That's what, my physical health journey is what really powers me, is the revelations I made while training for a marathon, which I have my own podcast episode on, and I have a blog post about. And that relentless forward motion and humility throughout that process is in reaching out to other experts and other people to help me do the best I can do for myself and plan appropriately, even for when things go awry, because they always go awry. That's what well-being is about. That's what confidence is about. It's about knowing you have things in place so when things don't go right, you're not going to be devastated. And that's across your whole life field.
Well, I think that sums up this podcast so eloquently. And I just love what you said. And I think that you really summed up confidence is really not just confidence in the way you look, it's confidence in who you are. It's confidence in feeling strong, smart, secure. Like it's all these things. Like if because I know so many women out there that have stayed in marriages because they threw the finances over to the husband, because like they didn't take responsibility and they just gave it over to someone. They lost a lot of power. And so when they're miserable and they wish they could leave the relationship, they're feeling stuck, and it's because they don't have the confidence that they would be able to take care of things because they haven't been doing it. They don't realize they can do it. Yeah. And so I really like episodes like this where it just makes you think about money and the energy that you're putting into your beliefs, and realizing and recognizing that it's really actually more empowering to face your fears, to change your money mindset, and do things like what Laura has suggested today. And before we close, tell them all about where they can reach you on social media, your podcast.
Yeah, so the easiest way to kind of get in contact with me is on LinkedIn. You can find me, just search my name. I should pop up there. I'm heavy on LinkedIn just because I love connecting with other professional women that are high powered and are looking to grow their confidence and learn more. And I love connecting with people to learn more too. So LinkedIn, number one. The podcast is Empowered Modern Women. It's on Spotify, Apple, everywhere. So again, you should just search my name and it should pop up. And in addition to that, I'm on other socials, but if you find me on LinkedIn and reach out to me, I'm here to talk. I love networking. I love meeting new people, whether it's, we work together in some way, we partner in some way, or I point you in the right direction to resources that can help you. That's my goal in life, is to to be a people connector. Yes, I have my own businesses and I do my money mindset coaching, and I have my financial practice where I help women become more financially confident. But my end goal is to just help empower more women to go seek the answers from the people that makes the most sense for them to be connected with. So my goal is to connect people. So if you check out the podcast, there's a whole bunch of interviews for a whole bunch of different women from all different backgrounds, coaching, professions, etc. And I'd be honored if anybody reaches out to me and I can help you in some way by pointing you in the right direction.
I love it. Make sure you guys all go check out her podcast. Say the name for me again.
Empowered Modern Women.
And I have so enjoyed this conversation with you today. I love anything that empowers women to be stronger, more confident, and secure within themselves. So thank you, Laura. And thanks everybody for listening to this episode of Sisterhood of Sweat. And we'll be back on Wednesday. Bye, everyone.